Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Meet the Experts. This is like, I think we're coming up on like episode 90 now. I don't even know. I've lost count. I have to go back through the files and through all the episodes and renumber. It's hard to number episodes, and I could do a whole episode on why it's hard to number podcast episodes when you're trying to schedule and coordinate recordings and live streams and broadcasts. But anyway, Meet the Experts is a place where we talk to business owners, executives, managers, founders, thought leaders, anybody really who has a product or service that they want to get the word out about in video format. We often refer to it as a year's worth of video content in a 25 or 30-minute interview. And that's exactly what our goal is. A lot of people have a hard time just with creating video. They need more media appearances, or they just need somebody to help facilitate. And what a great way to facilitate a video interview for your business than just a remote. We're all used to Zooms and StreamYards and Hangouts and all these things now. So that's what we do. So it costs a business owner nothing to be a guest. And if you stick around to the end of the episode, I will tell you how you can be a guest on a future episode of Meet the Experts. Meet the Experts is also powered by, fueled by, and sponsored by Journey Builder. You can go to getjourneybuilder.com to learn more. It is an all-in-one customer relationship management software suite with a whole slew of digital marketing tools built in. So it's an all-in-one marketing software for any small to mid-sized business. And we'd love to tell you more about that. If you're interested, you can always contact us. Anyway, let's turn our attention to today's guest, Terri Sherman. Terri is a certified business intermediary with Florida Business Exchange Incorporated, their business broker. I've been doing a lot of interviews with people in this space recently because it's something that fascinates me and I want to learn more about. So what better than to ask people who are in the space? So without any further pause here, let's bring Terri up. Terri, hi, how are you?
I am doing well, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. I've been looking forward to this episode, and of course, we're recording on a Friday, and I'm going away on a business trip tomorrow, so I'm even more better because like I'm excited about this trip that I have coming up. But glad to get you on, and glad to learn a little bit more about what you do. But before we go into kind of your services and who they help, let's talk a little bit more about you, Terri. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of what you do.
Oh, absolutely. So, as you stated, I'm a certified business intermediary with Florida Business Exchange. I've been with FBX, is what we call it as an acronym, for 12 years now. And business brokerage was not a life plan. I fell into that. That's a story for a different day, but it's been great. So, I'm based in the Jacksonville, Florida office. Jacksonville is home, born and raised here. So, I cover Jacksonville in about a 2 hour radius, I would say. And then I do some business in Broward and Miami-Dade counties kind of as needed. So I always like to preface it by saying that my focus is really what we call Main Street. So think of your true mom and pop small business owner. Most of my customers, no one's going to have revenue, I would say, on the high end of maybe 2.5 to 3 million annually. So I'm truly, again, the lower end. Um, just think of your local dry cleaners, your local nail shop, barber shop, restaurant, so on and so forth. So I love it.
Cool. So that's a good lead in to the next question actually, because we talk about who your services truly help, and the fact that you work kind of on that Main Street small business level. I often say the same thing. We're bringing like Madison Avenue marketing to Main Street businesses, right?
I love that.
So talk about some of those services. So we know kind of who you help, but like if I had that dry cleaner or
Right.
that mom and pop, like, and I come to you, what are the services that you would provide?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing that I love to promote is that I provide free business opinions of value. And it's free.
Hmm.
Okay. So it's just a great way, in my opinion, for a business owner to be well informed. Like, I'm big about education, I'm big about information. So doing my best to help equip the business owner with what they need to then begin to make real decisions. Because when people think of an exit strategy, some shy away from it because they feel like you're pressuring them to exit tomorrow. And it's
Mm,
like, no, I mean, your exit could be 5 years from now, but the more prepared you are, the better, right? So why not come in, have a valuation done, see where you are today in terms of market value. And then again, if you're not where you want to be, then we can plan to say, well, where do you need to be in 5 years to exit for what makes sense for you financially or for your retirement goals or whatever the motivation is. So that's the biggest piece. But from there, we do what I like to call, I guess, matchmaking.
mm.
So it's kind of my role as the intermediary, the middle person, to match a business buyer with the business seller. And we like to say we're looking for the right price, the right buyer at the right terms, right, in the right time. So that's really the goal. And we service all of Florida. And I will say too, although I am on the main street side of things, we do have an M&A division of FBX, so mergers and acquisitions. So you're thinking businesses with annual revenue, say 3 million up to maybe 15, 20 million. So we do have some specialists in the M&A space as well.
It's interesting you say that. I'm going to piggyback on that question just a little bit. I was speaking with somebody who was in that kind of broker and also M&A space recently,
Mhm.
and he said that right now there's such a huge percentage of business owners that are in that like baby boomer kind of, they're gonna need to do something or it's gonna close up at some point in the next like 10 to 15 years, but
Yeah,
that there's like a blue ocean. There's not enough people buying,
yeah.
right? So that there's a lot of businesses that can be bought, but there's not enough people to buy the businesses. Is that pretty accurate down in Florida too? Is
And
that
that is pretty accurate. Although I would say in the last year to 2 years, I feel like the pandemic really kind of accelerated things a bit
mm,
and switched some things up. And that, yes, we do have a lot of businesses coming to market. I mean, just weekly, it's almost overwhelming and trying to service all of these people, right? But since the pandemic, I think it kind of weeded out, no, disrespect, but kind of the tire kickers that were
mm,
just maybe hobbyists. I like to look at businesses on the weekend, like people like to look on Zillow and just search homes,
yes,
right? We had a lot of that. I think those people kind of got eliminated a little bit more. So now when we do have buyers, which there are plenty of them out there, they seem to be at least at surface level more viable. They know what they want, they're more informed, they're sharper. So there is somewhat, I guess, of an equalizing taking place. But to your point and to your former guest's point, I think the rate at which people are exiting, again, because perhaps COVID accelerated their timeline, they're tired,
right.
or maybe if there were financial shifts that have occurred, it could very well become that. I mean, it's just super busy.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Um, it sent me down a rabbit hole of like, could I maybe suck up a business to expand a product offering, or could I do this to kind of change gears, or so now I'm kind of in that rabbit hole of like,
Yes,
could it be for me, or maybe I need to think about what's my exit strategy, right? It might be
it's
20 years from now, but
it's
when do
true.
I start preparing, right?
It's true. And I think there's two sides to that coin, to your point.
Yeah. So 12 years, right? You stumbled into this and 12 years later, here you are. But we don't make it 12 years in anything if we're not doing something right. Like if all we did was fail miserably, we would have changed course by now. So
Yeah.
you are doing something right. You're helping people, or you wouldn't have made it 12 years, quite honestly. Is there anything that someone that you've worked with, and I'm not asking for names or company names or
Sure.
people's names, but is there anything that when you wake up in the morning and you think about that one testimonial or win for somebody, and it's kind of that thing that keeps you getting up and fired up for the next day, give me that first one that comes to mind as far as a win or testimonial.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. It probably was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I was working with a woman. I did not successfully sell her business,
Hmm.
which what she said was probably more impactful because of it. She said to me, "We need people like you in this space." And that really resonated with me because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There have been plenty of failures, Jay. Like it
Oh, of
has
course.
not been an easy road. Perhaps a little bit of, just stubbornness and tenacity has kept me here in those downs. But I really appreciated what she said, because sometimes you may have that moment of, is this for me? Do I really fit here? Maybe I'm not doing what I think I would like to be doing, but then you have those kind of nudges along the way that do keep you going, and you think about, and that kind of gives you that motivation to push through. So that definitely is the first thing to come to mind.
That's incredible. I love that. I've said this on the show many times, but I like to play golf. I'm not a good golfer, but I'm a weekend warrior. And maybe that's why I use this analogy. Every time I play a round of golf, I hit at least one shot that is just so good,
Mhm.
right? And they say it's the shot that keeps you coming back. And I know that like
Exactly.
we have the one thing that somebody tells us and it validates our existence in the business world, right?
True.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. All right, well let's kind of change gears. Well, not change gears, but let's talk a little bit about how you, from an educational standpoint, how you learned it, earned it, and proved your authority. I mean, is there titles or certifications that got you here? Was it just learning on the job? What was your educational experience like to get you to where you're able to do this job?
That's actually a really thoughtful question. So initially, it very much felt like on the job training. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am now reading financial statements for a living. How did I get here? Like, I have a degree in English, by the way. Let me just make that little sidebar. Okay. So, there's that piece of it. But I did have some great early mentors, with FBX, between my broker and there's a retired colleague of mine who just kind of took me under his wing. And I always share when I talk about him, I mark it because I was 27 and he was 72. And so that
Mm,
tells you just the gap. And I think his name is Bob. Bob had been in the business probably longer than I was old at the time, but I learned a lot from him, just kind of watching him go through the process. And then you, of course, develop your own systems and your own touch of things. And then along the way, really getting more involved, I would say, with like our national organization, for instance, which is the International Business Brokers Association, the IBBA, meeting other business brokers from around the country, from Canada. I attended my first IBBA conference this year, which is probably really sad to be here for this long. I finally went, but I'm like, now I will never not go, right?
right.
And then even with our state organization, we're very organized here in Florida. We've got a great organization, a great group of leaders for our industry here under the Business Brokers of Florida. So even through them, we have quarterly educational seminars throughout the state that you can attend, lunch and learns. And so that's been great. And then this year, I did obtain a designation through the IBBA, which is the certified business intermediary. So that's, you take a test, like it's a whole thing. You take courses. So I was glad to kind of just add that in because, I mean, education is important. The industry is changing. The world is changing. I think our approaches are changing, right?
Sure.
For everyone, at least it should be. So there's that.
I I love that, and it is, I appreciate you said that's a very thoughtful question, and I don't often like think of it in that way. So it kind of made me happy inside a little bit when I heard
Well,
that.
good. We like
I
warm and
think
fuzzies.
yeah. So but yeah, but I find that that question is so important because what I'm finding is people that are in business, you could have the best degree from the best university in the world, or you could have no degree from any university anywhere. And but what makes us all good at what we do is but by what we do on a day-to-day basis, right? By
That's
like
it.
just showing up,
That's right.
right? Is most of the battle. And I love that you were able to obtain a an accreditation, a certificate, right? It validates kind of that you're a good business broker and that you've studied something, you've learned something, right? And
Mhm.
you've been able to pass a test, and that's good. I have one back here, that I've gotten. And the other thing you mentioned was conferences and industry things. I think that's so important for so
It
many
is.
people. I went to my first traffic and conversion summit last year in San Diego,
Okay.
which is a big digital marketing conference. And I was a little bit ashamed that that was my first one 11 years into business.
Right?
And my plane tickets and hotel are reserved for this year. They're moving to Las Vegas in January, but we're going. Like I'm
Right.
going because I can't not go now. I have
Correct.
so many friends that are going to be there and so much to learn and so many great speakers and it's like what this that's going to be the thing I look forward to,
That's
right?
right.
So very, very cool. I love that in every trade or every industry, I think if getting involved in those professional organizations is a massive way to put yourself,
I
you know,
agree.
on a new level. Great. All right, now I'm going to change gears. I know I said it last
Okay.
session. This is the change gears. I promise. So, Terri, I'm going to ask you, you could be personally if you want or
Okay.
professionally. I don't mind whichever way you want to answer it, or you can do one of each. Doesn't matter. Um, but I'm just going to ask you, tell us something that you're truly thankful for.
Oh my goodness, life. Like as broad as that is, life and some peace of mind, because not to be depressing, right? But I talked to two different people yesterday that I have one I had not seen in a number of years, and one I haven't seen probably from the last year. We're in an organization together. And they both, when I asked, well, how have you been? It's really been a rough year, like verbatim the same response. And I think for all of us, just looking at, we're creatures that are always trying to adapt, in my opinion, right? So we just, whatever's thrown, we're just trying to adapt and maneuver. But a lot has happened in 3 or 4 years. And I think all of us are changed, by what's happening around us still. So just to have like a relative peace of mind and life and a relative amount of health, I so thankful. So thankful.
I think that's the answer you gave does, it sounds broad, but I think just, it's so meaningful, right? Because that can take on, that's every aspect of life. So when I say personal or professional and you say life, it's like that's everything. That's all encompassing.
And you said it, because if we're not here, we can't show up and try to get in the game, right? So you're right.
Yes.
I think it does touch on every level, and that's about as honest as I can be.
Love it. And that shows. It shows. And I can tell that you have a passion for what you do and that you love what you do. And let's make sure that I also make sure that everybody else can know how to get a hold of you.
Sure.
Yeah, so mindyourbusinesstoday.com. Now I got to ask you about that. And I know I don't have it. I wasn't planning on it, but Mind Your Business Today is such a cool
Thank
name for a
you.
website. Is that yours? Is that
That's
something that
mine. And that
that's
means a lot coming from a marketing expert. So it's funny. I have to tell you a little anecdote right quick. So when I got into this industry, I came from the music business, which is again a different story for a different day, completely random. And I dealt a lot in the marketing space. So I was like, well, what can I, create that's quirky? And that was the first thing that came to mind. What's been interesting is over the years, if someone asks for my email or my website and I'll say it, there's like a 50-50 split of people that chuckle
right?
and those that kind of give the frown of like, what? And it's like the delay of
Yeah.
it landing, then the chuckle. So I always enjoy that because half of the people get it and half miss it. And it's kind of funny. So
I love it. When I looked at it, I was like, God, that's a perfect domain name for what you do,
thank
and it's
you.
so catchy. Nobody would forget it, right?
You
Like it's
won't
it's
forget it at
memorable. You
least.
won't forget it either way.
Correct.
I like that you came from the music industry too. I used to play in a band a long time ago, and I did some things in the music industry. So I could start a whole nother podcast or talk or something on just
Yes.
that whole thing. But
I
I'm
love it.
not going to. But
But
I
aren't they
do love that.
transferable skills? Let's just kind of say that. Like, I know whatever you
Absolutely.
get over there completely transfers into everything else.
It's life skills.
Yeah.
It's life skills. I often say that playing in a band at 23 years old and going on tour and going into a studio and
Mhm.
managing finances and traveling and doing all these things like prepared me so much for what I'm going to face in life and in business and everything
1000%.
else. Yeah. All right, I've only got one more question for you. We're gonna wrap this up, and this is a biggie though. A lot of times people are like, this is the one that's their favorite question. You might on mindyourbusinesstoday.com, you may or may not have a frequently asked questions section or page, and if you don't, I'm going to give you a chance to create one right now.
Okay.
um, but I'm sure that you get asked at least one question over and over and over and over again. It might be 10 questions that you get asked, right? But I want to give you a chance to answer that big one on video, because video is forever, right? You can chop
Yes.
that out and you could just put it on the website and here's the answer to that question. Tell me the question that you get over and over again and then go ahead and answer it.
Okay. Why would anyone be selling a business that's successful? If
Mhm.
they're selling, they must be failing. So I want to answer that. In some cases, that may be true, right? Which creates kind of a strategic opportunity. Maybe you can buy the business just for the assets, the inventory, and at least skip the build out, negotiating a lease, and just step in with your concept. The other side of that, though, is that there are some people that do the whole like wash, rinse, repeat cycle of they buy a business, grow it over 3 to 5 years, sell it, take that capital, do it again. And I always say, if people are investing in real estate, right? You think of a real estate investor, that kind of buy low, sell high mentality, it can apply on our side too. So just because someone is exiting a business does not mean the business is failing. It does not mean that there's no opportunity left and that there's no growth potential remaining. So that's probably the number one question.
That is an amazing question that it wouldn't come to mind for me right now,
Mhm.
but the minute you said it, I was like, holy mackerel, what a good question. Like
Yeah.
that's a thoughtful question that people are asking you, and
Yeah.
one that I love that you could answer that. So man, that was really good, because I often think, like, if I bought a business,
Mhm.
would I, I feel like I could be a turnaround person, but there might be people that are like, no, we can get so much more out of this. And then there's the people that are like, I just want to sell the business because I'm old and tired and I just want to
Yeah.
retire. Business is fine. It's not great, not bad. There's probably plenty of opportunity. Wow, you just gave me so many more things to think about. Well, thanks. Now I have something to think about on the plane tomorrow.
You're welcome. It'll be a great,
So.
even better, right?
Awesome. Terri, I really do appreciate you coming on Meet the Experts. This was a lot of fun. I told you it would go quick, and I wasn't lying. It goes fast. Everybody should reach out if you're especially if you're in the Florida area and you are in a business or looking to buy a business. Get up with Terri now. Even if your plan might be to sell 10 years from now, now's the time to start talking about it, because maybe there's that system or process or people that you need to start planning to put into place to make it more valuable, right? Am I right with
That's
that?
right. You're a
Yeah.
1,000% right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and I look
Thank you
forward
for
to staying
having
in
me.
touch with you.
Please do.
All right. Cool. That was great. I love that space. I'm so fascinated by that space. I think there's a future for me, not in the broker side. There is a future for me in doing more business transactions. It's just got to happen. Anyway, I did tell you that if you stuck around to the end of the episode, which was really easy to do, I would say, it was a very fun interview. But now that you've stuck around, and you might be thinking, how could I be a guest on Meet the Experts and have a good time and a couple of laughs? Well, bottom of the screen. Go to www.meettheexpertspodcast.com. Meet the Experts with an S, meettheexpertspodcast.com. Read all about it, learn about it, what we do, what we don't do, what we could do after the episode if you choose. And it's 25 minutes of your time and a great opportunity to get some video content and get some marketing for your business, and it doesn't cost you anything. So I would love to have you on as a future guest. Head over to that website. Until then, I'm going to make a quick shameless plug. We are getting close to our 100th episode, where I'm going to be pulling snippets out of past episodes that I thought were great, re-spotlighting some of our past guests, doing an entire live stream of our 100th episode, and it should be a fun time. So stay in touch. Be on the lookout for that. But until our next episode, I hope you have a great day, a wonderful day. Do something nice for somebody else today, and just be